Hello, everyone, and welcome to Short Rest for Trials of VinTear episode. What are we on? 4. This is episode 4.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my
four.
god.
Ready to get down? I have soup on the mind.
Well, today was the trial day. I did mention to you all off camera that I was aiming to hurt you all and be as petty as possible. Hopefully I did that.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Still salty.
You hurt me not where I thought you would, but where I didn't think you would, and screw you.
There was a lot
I
of
think
moments.
Moore's was the one it bothered most that this was all like shady and not done according to justice and law and order. I don't think the rest of us have a tremendous amount of faith in the system, but it seemed like Moore's did.
Yeah, I was still more salty about Volrad and his nonsense, I suppose.
This definitely, when I was building this trial thing, I was like, it doesn't feel like it'd be fun as if for a D&D experience for it to be like, then you're brought to trial, then you're recounted the story, and then the next person recounts the story, and the next person recounts the story, and the next person recounts the story. I go, that's not really fun. I wanted to make it really quick where like Ambrosia gave a third-party view of what occurred, so everyone at the stand knew what the story was. And it was more or less like, are you criminals? Let's paint you in a bad light. So I wanted to attack you guys and do a smear campaign.
In a real court of law, that wouldn't fly. Just throwing that out there.
It definitely wouldn't.
Leading
Shady
statements
dealings.
everywhere.
That's
not
the thing is
admissible.
I'm not sure how leading works when you have the accused on the stand. I think you're allowed to do a bit more of that, but
Technically, they're allowed to
Yeah.
lead on cross, I think, but on direct, you're not supposed to. On direct, they're just supposed to tell you what's going on.
And
My law experience comes
Oh.
from TV.
hold on. I think the temple cut off there a little bit. What were you trying to say?
No, I was saying, I'm like, technically, he's allowed to lead because he's doing it on cross.
Yeah, but the problem that I had was he was making leading statements, but not actually asking questions. Ergo, was it an interrogation, or was he just leading the jury to find me guilty by way of his statement?
Yeah, he was basically just painting he was attacking you personally.
maybe that's allowed in this legal system.
Yeah.
And I took that personally.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was funny because I was looking through everyone's notes and I was like, Arrow's the only one who actually had like a trail of why you're here. Everyone else was just, oh, I got an invite from someone else, or someone didn't show and I was the replacement. And I was like, this is a fun way to attack you guys, was that you guys technically weren't supposed to be here.
Well, we worked out.
Yeah, it all worked
Good
out.
thing we were. Would have been bad if we weren't there.
By the way, because Steve, you rolled low for Joshua, in terms of like what he learned, he could have prepped you guys to be like, if he's going to look into your history, and then you would have had like, oh, I could say something about illegally being here, or I could have said something about the breaking and entering. Like they would have been more leading up to be like, this is information you should know that's going to be asked about.
I assumed that was going to happen, which is why I brought up the alley, the scoundrel in the alley that I knocked unconscious and possibly killed.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that up before he did.
I definitely agree with that. I knew that was going to be something you were going to bring up from all of us, so I wanted to have my advantage point be, hey, you're going to come at me for that guard that I beat up, so I'm going to be ready.
Did you end up using your copy?
Didn't even need it.
Yeah, I was like,
No, I didn't. Because again, there was no actual questions that were asked to me. It was just statement after statement after statement.
He
which
did
is why
begin. He did begin his cross-examination was like, why do I need to examine you? And he came up with this massive confidence, and it just didn't turn out well for him.
I literally sat there and said, I don't understand the question you're trying to ask me because you just made statements.
Yeah.
Like this is not a questioning.
Yeah, that was fun. I also saw a bunch of you guys get mad, and that was obviously the goal. Especially you, Titan. I was like, oh, Titan's mad.
I method act. I can't help it. Arrow was real pissed.
Yeah.
For various reasons, almost all of them being Volrad.
But Volra's being sent to the
glad-
Thrown Stone.
Yeah. Really
Yeah.
glad.
He's happy.
Whose idea was it to check him as you walked by him?
It was
Oh,
both Moors and I.
Yeah, Morrison and Arrow.
Both of you having that instinct to check him in that moment ended up being really important.
There was a
Screwed
lot of
me by
important
doing
moments.
that. I was in close quarters because I trusted him.
So
And
I mentioned
and
to-
it was also really good that like I have expertise in perception, so I am sharp. I am
Yeah.
sharp, and it was great.
there was I told this to Amber, and I go, the reason why saving Jeffrey was such an important moment,
Gregory.
or Gregory, sorry,
Saved the wrong dude.
Sorry, but the reason why it was so important, saving him, was because it would have gotten you an advantage, or basically would have like helped out. Essentially, what Volred or Yuka would have tried to do was communicate with the dead and use that against you. Yeah.
Glad that
Threw
didn't
your
happen.
dice.
That would have been obnoxious.
Because he was the only staff member who wasn't eaten. He was just
Yeah.
unconscious and drowning. They would have found his body and they would have spoke with dead and they would have come up with some fake statements. But because you did save him, that fully that kicked my thing out, and I was like, oh, well, that's gonna affect the trial. So it was a massive move. And then, yeah, and checking his person was definitely a big one, because I was like, he teleported with an object. He's not a spellcaster. So he was going to warp out of that the moment it was going to get bad.
I just I guess the only question I really have is, assuming assume a world where we went through my interrogation and I was actually asked questions, what would those questions have looked like?
Well, I mean, one big question that was asked that kind of got thrown away was like, why were you... Because the big thing was like, oh, you had the money. And the question was like, why do you have Mr. Tanner's money? And there would have been a lot of logic jumping, but essentially he would have tried to paint you in this light of, you went in with these team of no faces to get in there and steal his money.
So I knew I was prepared for the money, I was prepared for the weapons, but other than those two factors, what else could they have asked Moors to try to paint him in a bad light? Because I knew the question about beating the guard was going to come up. The money, of course, was a big one, and then me being armed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
those were pretty big. on
those are
their
pretty
own.
big. I mean, the fact that you were like, is there any more? I'm like, that's already a big bite, dude.
Yeah.
Why do you have the knife of the
those-
murder weapon?
Well, is this in fact the knife? Is this the murder weapon?
It's less of like the knife, and it's more like, why do you have the Lord's jewels on your person?
Yeah.
Easy. He owed my partner a favor.
That already sounds so shady already.
It was a pretty shady dealing, even in truth.
Yeah.
It was. Nobody knew about it. Nobody asked.
Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of moments where I was like, oh, you guys technically broke. There's a lot of you did break laws, or looked poorly in the law's eyes. Like, we already established for Legati that you've been arrested numerous times. Diva was here illegally and had some run-ins with the law, just standard small things. Morris just got arrested. The only one who was clean in that aspect was Arrow.
Which
You know,
baffles me.
yeah, right. But that way he
Should not be
researched
the
you.
case.
That's why he researched you, and he was going to be like, oh, you're from a den of pirates. Surely you've done something, but you cut him off quickly. You were like, the hell's going on? So he couldn't even get to that point.
You made him so mad.
That was
Yeah.
such a good comeback. Like, you think everybody from here is a pirate? I was like, oh, that's so good. So
Thank
good.
you. He was very angry. I liked seeing Phoenix flare up too. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That one's a tough one because, obviously, Arrow told me to kind of keep him in check during the entire thing. I didn't feel like I had to. I think everything he
It was
said
all justified.
Yeah, everything he said was like spot on. I even cheered him on when he
Yeah.
was like, "Not everyone here's, not everyone from there is a bad person." I was like, "Yes." But
Yeah.
then Phoenix broke out, and I'm like, "Oh, what do I do? This is bad."
But by the
Speaking
way,
out of turn.
for you, Arrow, definitely most people there are pirates.
I will say that
Yeah, most of
He
them
doesn't
are
have to know that,
cutthroats.
okay?
Yeah,
He
they don't have to know that though.
Okay, not all of them, even if it is most of them.
I will say though, like the reason why she left is part of because you put hands on her, and we'll get into that later. But she was like, "You are not gonna put hands on me. I don't care who you are."
Who put hands on you?
Because he was like, "I'm gonna make her sit down and shut up," and that's why I was like, "I'm gonna go
Oh.
sit next to Legati," and that's why she was like, "I'm
Oh.
out. Like you don't
Yeah, I was
touch
curious why she bolted. Yeah.
Oh,
could've-
I didn't even think of it like that.
It just had the potential to be so bad. Like
Yeah.
speaking out an
But that
outburst in the courtroom
helped.
where we're not
It
on
actually
It did
stand.
help.
helped.
It helped.
Yeah, in the like 1% of cases here, yeah, it helped us, sure. But in the other 99 where it ends poorly for us,
Oh, there
not
was some.
good.
So I think there was some great information that was also revealed during this whole moment, which was one, we learned that Diva got to the kingdom, and you don't know how. Two, we learned that Pepper died. And
Yeah, that yeah.
yeah, and yeah, there was. They mentioned, like, remember we did the session 0 where it's like, or session 1 where you woke up in this trashed room. So yeah, that was, and they found clothing, so it's like they're pinning it on you.
Oh,
Like I said, they said they found a piece of my coat, and I'm just like, okay. And then, like you said, the trash room. I'm like, oh, so I'm really being set up for that. So I have
Maybe
questions.
that'll be what we investigate.
yeah,
Get
it
to
could
solve
be.
that murder. Aaron.
More reason why I want to go back to the Amar. Yeah, whatever. To see, like, okay, so what else happened while I was gone?
I had a question, spelling wise, for my notes. So I remember it was also brought up where Phoenix was from. Jungle of
and burn.
some. What is it?
And burn.
ANDBURN. So,
Okay, I was one
and
letter off.
burn.
Okay. I'm curious about that. Arrow wants to ask about that.
You have to catch me first.
It's
Oh
just like,
boy!
yeah, exactly.
Well, at least you are past players. I'm sure they know where
I know. As
Burn
soon
is.
as I heard that, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
I'm curious how old is Phoenix?
25.
So you were like a wee little child when Rolly met you, if he met you,
You did it.
maybe.
You didn't meet Phoenix.
We
but
won't spoil it.
we won't spoil it. You can definitely
Yeah, I
ask
love
about
that.
it.
Oh, I love that. That's cool.
But yeah,
Um,
you wouldn't have seen her. You wouldn't have seen her.
But definitely,
She knows of you guys.
definitely
but she
old
doesn't.
enough to be aware of
Very
a
much
cruise
aware.
being underneath the thumb of fire giants.
Yeah.
There's some history. And then there was some mention of Legati's past of being a transmuter. Now finally, like almost like spelling it out on paper. It's like, yeah, you've trained in transmutation. I was like, how am I gonna get Nick? Nick's a very smart player.
Legati's a smart guy, and clearly he's not in prison now, despite being arrested multiple times. So he must
like-
be good at it.
You're like,
right?
it wasn't violent crimes. It was, just being somewhere where it wasn't supposed to be.
And then just like
Exploring.
throwing to the jury and being like, "Psh, guards, right? Never there when you need them."
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
I really laughed at the whole like it because I was like, how do I get Nick? And I was like, well, he's been transmutating his bars all this time, and surely one of the guards would have caught that sooner or later. And especially Yuka, who is a very well knowledgeable person who works for a lot of influential people in the guilds, has a lot of money to sway and be like, just give me any information on this person and learn that you studied magic, your specialty of magic, and was like, this person can do some, how does this work? And learned about how that worked and was like, check the cell. And yeah, I think you all kind of understand that this was unconventional, and there was a purpose. Like, they were straight getting to you guys. For what ends, we'll have to find out. But any other questions before we end today's short rest? right. Hopefully you enjoy the short rests. Roll those hit die. We're going to go chase a toddler. Bye, everyone.